everybody, and welcome to the BFF show. My name is Brendan.
I'm Franco.
Franco, it's been a while, my friend. I hope you're doing well. I know you're doing well because we talk to each other outside of this show, but on air, I always like checking in with you. And also, it's been a while since we've been on Am Premiere. I think we're still on Am Premiere. I don't know if you have any updates for us, Franco.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a while. I'm doing well. As far as Am Premiere goes, no one's called me, so I think good news is no news. I liken it to the Howard Stern back in the day where, like, Stern was still on the radio, but he's still getting phone calls. We're not even at Howard Stern levels yet. No one's panicked on the side of Am Premiere.
No, so we're still here, so hopefully you're still watching us on Am Premiere. And tonight we're going to talk about NFL Week 3, heading into Week 4. And usually at this point, Franco, I have a better understanding of what's going on in the NFL, and I feel like I have no idea what's happening. Usually we get into a rhythm, we get into a groove, we start saying things like, I expect this team to make it to the playoffs. You can maybe make that argument for a few teams, but the reality is, for me, I don't really understand what's going on in this season. We'll get into that a little bit later in the show, but there's a lot of weird stuff, and I don't know if you share the same feelings.
No, we're in the same place. You remember this game when you were a kid? Where you had like the board with the snow globe-like thing, and you would press down on it, and it would like launch all the pieces in the air.
Yeah,
I believe it was called Boggle. I feel like the NFL season has been that way. We had all the NFL teams on our little snow globe. We push on it, and like each dice either gets on good or bad, and that week that's how they play. Because it's been super random with a couple of extremes. We know the Raiders suck, but besides that, yeah. But I'll let you segue that into the next question.
Well, we can. Why don't we do 0-3 teams who we know are terrible? And as much as as I hate that you said it as a Raiders fan, the Raiders are absolutely terrible. They are 0-3 right now. They cannot finish a game. They have the worst point differential in the entire NFL at I think plus 41. They are minus 41, right? It's plus or minus. See, this is why we need to do shows more often, because then I get confused as to what way I want to go. It's the worst version of it, which I think is the minus.
Minus 41, yeah.
Sweet. You come for the knowledge, everybody watching at home and online. So I think, that tells a lot. They can't finish games. They can't. They have been leading the games that they've played until the second half, and then they just fall apart. I think, Franco, this team is definitely trash, and it's already over.
I think the team is fine. I think the coach is trash. I think a team falling apart in the second half of games is an indictment of the head coach. And I think the Raiders organization has everything that's coming to it now. They shouldn't have left Oakland. They shouldn't have screwed the city. They shouldn't have brought back a has-been whose only claim to fame is really taking over a team that Tony Dungy built anyway. So the Raiders have reaped everything they sow. I hope they go 0-16. Then I hope they draft Ryan Leaf.
the Ryan Leaf 2.0.
That's all I want. Yep.
That's all you want. Let's jump over to another sad team, and that's the Houston Texans at 0-3. This team had a lot of promise at the beginning of the season. Looking forward to Deshaun Watson get back on the court and not on the field. Messing up.
No, you're fine. Deshaun Watson was compared to Michael Jordan by Dabo Swinney. So the court analogy does work. So
it works a little bit. I appreciate you picking me up as I just fall repeatedly on my face in this podcast. So. But this is a team, again, Franco, that had a lot of expectations. J.J. Watt's coming back. You got a great quarterback. And now they're 0-3, falling to the New York Football Giants this past Sunday. Is this a team that we need to be concerned about for real, or do they bounce back?
First of all, I love that we call failing losing to the New York Football Giants. That's how bad that organization has become. Just like their fan base. Utter garbage. But moving on from that, I think this is false gold. I think the Texans are a good team. I think Deshaun Watson needed a little time to get his knees underneath him, and I think that defense will rebound. The problem is their secondary isn't as strong as it could be, but I think learning a system in time will heal that wound. I think they'll at least be an 8-8 team.
All right. Well, so some high hopes maybe ahead. And then finally, our last 0-3 team is the Arizona Cardinals. They signed, all that you need to know is they signed Sam Bradford to a lucrative deal, and that backfired spectacularly. Benching him in the last 5 minutes of yesterday's game on Sunday, excuse me, and putting in finally Rosen, who threw an interception. And it seems like the worst possible way you could start a young quarterback's career, throwing him in 5 minutes into a game. But it happened. This team is bad just on both sides of the football. I think this is a legitimately stinky team, Franco.
Yeah, they're terrible. And their idea of rebuilding by sacrificing their young quarterback at the altar, I don't necessarily agree with. I mean, if you're going to pay Sam Bradford millions of dollars, let him at least go down on the field, because that was going to happen inevitably. I wouldn't put your rookie quarterback in that position. I think the real story is here, Arizona has done Larry Fitzgerald wrong. I think they should have put a better team around him in his last years. I think it's unfortunate, and I think L. Fitz deserves better. Free Larry.
Free Larry, do you think he gets traded at all, Franco?
I don't think so. I think he's too loyal of a guy. I think he'll want to stay on that roster until he retires, and I think that's a really sad thing. So I think he has a run in him, and I think he deserves a Lombardi Trophy, because he's automatically a Hall of Famer. I don't think there's any doubt he's a full ballot. And unlike Terrell Owens and the other wide receivers who had character questions, Larry Fitzgerald's an upstanding guy. He represents the league the right way, and he deserves to be in the Hall of Fame.
I agree. I think that he would want to stay, but I think if, let's say, a team that we will talk a little bit about later, the Patriots come in with a hard to pass up offer, I say maybe there's a 10% chance he gets traded. And I think it's all for a team that gets desperate for a wide receiver and looks at Arizona's situation as in they're in total rebuild mode, maybe, but I give it 10% only. Let's jump into happier times. Happier times, Franco, for these three teams. They are the 3-0 teams that will start in the AFC East. The Miami Dolphins just blown out the Oakland Raiders, making them look sad, pathetic, to the point where they had two of their wide receivers even high five. It was great. I was in a bar with a lot of Oakland fans, and people were sad when the high five happened. And so I think the Miami Dolphins are a team, Franco, that they kind of haven't had a super tough schedule yet. I don't know if I trust them. It is Ryan Tannehill. He hasn't really given us much reason to trust him. And they're heading into the harder part of their season. So I think while 3-0 now, I'm about 50-50 on their chances of continuing their success. What about you?
I don't think they go undefeated. I think they have a playoff run in them. I think Gase is a good enough coach to move them in that direction. And don't forget, 3 years ago, we were all talking about how great Tannehill was going to be, and he's the next fantasy sleeper. So there is that. I think the Dolphins are that team that you know in your heart is going to falter and fall off the wagon, but you really are hoping for them anyway. Like that cute puppy at the adoption fair, and you really want to get adopted. So you're really hoping and hoping for it, but you're not sure it's going to work out in the end.
All right, we're going to end it right there with the puppies.
Yeah, I'm sorry. That's how I feel in this moment. Dolphin, puppy, dolphin.
It's sad. It's just, now I'm sad. Now I feel like I want to adopt a dog. But I can't. I live in an apartment that doesn't allow that. All right, so 3-0 Kansas City Chiefs. Patrick Mahomes is the second coming, if you hear of on any sports talk radio on ESPN. He's the second coming of your favorite quarterback times 5,000. I think he's really exciting to watch. He has the best touchdown record, I believe, for a rookie at this point in his career. And I think I'll give this team an 80% chance, because I think the 20% that I'm not willing to commit is based off of, and you and I have seen this as fans of football for quite some time, we always have these moments where, and go back to Watson too with the Houston Texans, where they light up for the first couple of weeks. We even saw this with Kansas City Chiefs last year, when it was Alex Smith behind, but we looked at their rookies, Tyreek Hill in particular. These are great. They're impossible to defend, and then all of a sudden defenses start catching up, and defenses always end up catching up in the NFL. So I think that's why I'm not all in yet, and maybe I'm being a jerk for saying that, because this guy is phenomenal. But I also, in the back of my mind, I feel like we've seen this play before, and there will probably be a game that's a 3-interception game, maybe in the future. So I think we need a bigger sample size before we buy stock in this for the long haul, Franco.
I totally agree. It's very reminiscent of the early run for Watson last year, and to an extent, Wilson, when he first got into the league. It's a mobile quarterback who plays the type of game that's not common, and so defenses take a while to adjust to it. I think he's a great player. I think he has a bright future, but this reeks of Andy Reid in every single way. This is the Donovan McNabb-led Eagles who made it to the NFC Championship game 3 times in a row and never made it to the Super Bowl, and when they did, they lost. So I think we see them in the AFC Championship game, and I think they fall apart.
Yeah, I think you make an excellent point. The 2 words you put together, the name Andy Reid. And I think that's what makes it terrifying because you're right, we have seen this before. So that's why I can't really buy in yet to the Chiefs. I think they're easily going to win their division. Again, they have yet to play Oakland, so that's automatically +2. I'm just salty about the Oakland Raiders right now. But let's move on to a happier area of California, and that is the Los Angeles Rams in the NFC West. They are now 3-0. This is a team that I am all in on, playmakers on both sides of the field, and I just feel like it's good. This is good. Isn't this good, Franco? Isn't this exciting? Are you excited about? You seem you're not like excited about this team at all. But I think that this team has potential to go not 16-0, but maybe 14-2 at the very least.
Yeah, I'm not excited because I'm a 49ers fan, and we're not on any major network, so I don't have to appear impartial. I'm sorry, Amp Premier, but I'm not giving up my fandom for our 30 minutes of fame on public access TV. So on that note, I think the Rams are very good. I think they'll go 13-3 this season and be around there. I don't think they make it to the Super Bowl. Honestly, I think they're a young team still. I think Gase has to learn a lot. Not Gase. I'm just naming every young coach in the NFL Adam Gase. McVay needs to learn a little more.
We are on fire. We
I
are
know.
bringing you heat for being off. This is because we've been off for a month. That's why.
3 weeks. Don't round
Close
up to
to
a
it.
baker's dozen.
Baker
Don't give them
Mayfield.
more
Segue.
Don't give them any more ammunition to remove us from the air if you could. No, I think they're a real team. I think they're going to do well. I think they have an NFC Championship game in their future. I don't like it because I don't like the Rams. So that's where I'm at.
Okay. All right, so I think, and then now sort of we'll highlight a few teams, Franco. We'll spend some brief moments on some of those teams that are, the 2-1, the 1-2, and maybe I think are probably going to be okay. And I'll start with the New England Patriots. I think because only by the fact that we don't trust Miami all the way, and Buffalo and the New York Jets have not shown us anything to believe in yet. And this seems very reminiscent of the later Tom Brady years where it's a slow start. But I am concerned, and I would be concerned if you're a Patriots fan, there doesn't seem to be any weapons offensively yet. I know that they have some guys coming back from injury, but there doesn't seem to be anybody that you fear, Franco, on the offensive side of the New England Patriots. It just, nothing so far. What are your thoughts on that?
I would love to declare the Patriots dead. However, 2 years ago when Tom Brady was throwing to Malcolm Mitchell, who is currently not on our roster, and turned him into a viable number 1 wide receiver, we were all celebrating the death of the Patriots in Week 3. And they went on to make the playoffs and do damage in the later rounds. So I'm not ready to declare it dead yet. You still have the addition of Josh Gordon to that roster. You still have Edelman coming back from suspension. I think getting those 2 back will open up the field. I think we'll see a lot more room for Gronk. And even if Gordon is a herring and is not an effective player, he'll still pull coverage away. So, unfortunately, the reign of the Patriots isn't over quite yet.
I don't know, because there was a story about Gronkowski almost being traded to the Detroit Lions, but he said he would rather retire. And I think that this is where it gets interesting for me, because there's been a lot of talk, and there's a new book coming out too about Bill Belichick that details the Jimmy Garoppolo trade as far as you can, because Bill Belichick, as we all expected, declined to be interviewed for a book about himself. But all the stories and all the interviews lead to these cracks that are in the foundation of the Patriots way. So I think this is, I agree with you though. I don't know if it's now, but I think we're seeing the beginnings of the fractures, if you will, in this team, that this is sort of the beginning of the end where but you know what, people have said this 2 years ago with Tom Brady, but now at 41, he wants to keep playing, and watch us be having this conversation 3 years from now when he's 44, heading into 45, and he's still throwing touchdowns. So who knows? But this might be the beginning. I want to talk about Green Bay because Green Bay Packers, your hometown team. I know
No.
you're
Stop.
you're
Not my hometown.
adopted.
I live in Green Bay. I'm a 49ers fan, always will be.
Your adopted fan base. It's okay to have one. Aaron Rodgers is injured. Okay, Aaron Rodgers is totally injured. It seems to be in pain every time he plays. I don't understand why they're making him, they're not making him, but somebody needs to sit him down and say maybe take a couple weeks off, because I feel like we're heading toward where he might have a partially torn ACL, something of that nature, where it's just hanging by a thread, and the more he continues to play, the more likely he is to have a major injury. That's at least what I think.
I'm not buying it. That's right. I'm
Hot
saying
take.
it. I'm saying
Hot
it in Green
take,
Bay.
baby.
I'm not buying it.
Okay.
Remember when Paul Pierce had to be carried into the locker room, only to emerge 5 minutes later, like he
Like
just
nothing
got
happened?
like nothing happened, and then he saved the team. I think Aaron Rodgers did injure his knee in that first week. I think whenever his team starts to lose, suddenly his limp gets worse. And I think that's a direct correlation. I
Okay.
think this is their ultimate excuse for not playing well. Whenever they're not playing well, all of a sudden Aaron's knee hurts more. And I don't even like Aaron Rodgers. I want to like Aaron Rodgers because I live in Green Bay and he's a California guy. Went to Cal. But when Olivia Munn dumps you, I'm on the same page. And nobody likes Danica Patrick, so get out of here with that.
Wow, you are. That's not a hot take. That is a lava take.
Volcanic.
Volcanic take. Ooh, even better.
Yeah.
Anyway, I think another team. Here's a team that I'm oddly all in on, and I know this is 100% influenced by HBO's Hard Knocks, but the Cleveland Browns are interesting, and I think that's what makes it exciting. Baker Mayfield made his appearance finally, and unfortunately, I like Tyrod Taylor, but he suffered a concussion, so they put Baker Mayfield in. Now he's leading the team. They finally won. The locks unlocked on all those fancy refrigerators that the Budweiser company put in all the bars in Cleveland that only unlocked when the team won. Probably public safety perspective, not the best idea. But it finally happened, and of all times to do it a Thursday night was probably the worst. They probably internally, the city of Cleveland was hoping for a 1 p.m. Sunday game so they could weather the storm. But sadly, Thursday night at 11 p.m. But anyway, I'm kind of in on the Cleveland Browns because they've got a lot of talent. Baker Mayfield might be good. It might be interesting at the very least. Maybe we'll see. But I think that this team is finally one of those teams that I'm kind of curious about. And they're playing the Raiders, so I might actually see them this coming week on TV. And as a Raiders fan, it's just I have a strong feeling that they're probably going to lose to the Browns.
Man, so two things. Cleveland may be the one team I can find myself rooting for who's not my own team, if only because America loves an underdog story.
Yeah.
And also, when you have a movie written about you that stars, I'm forgetting his name now. That's the kind of week this is on the BFF show. The white dude who always is in sports movies. Oh man.
Wait, are you talking about Kevin Costner?
Thank you. Tin Cup, Bull Durham. Also known as the white dude in sports movies. Alright. When you have a movie about Kevin Costner showing your rekindling, I think that it has to happen then. So
Yeah.
I'm all in on Cleveland. I don't think they're going to make the playoffs, but I think they have hopefully an 8-8 season, and I hope they embarrass John Gruden. Nothing would make me happier. I would unlock my own beer refrigerator. I'm going to put a lock on my refrigerator tonight, and I will only unlock it if Gruden loses to the Cleveland Browns. I won't eat for the rest of the month if they lose, but whatever.
I think you've got a strong shot of feasting on Sunday, my friend. This has all the ingredients for one of those games that is going to be embarrassing for the Oakland Raiders. It has a team that has historically been terrible. It has a rookie quarterback, and it has very young talent that hasn't been proven yet. This is going to be a proving ground for them. I just feel it. This is all, and it's probably going to be some sort of heartbreaking loss in Oakland. where they'll be on the verge of winning again, and then they'll just get blown out. And I just feel like that defense is going to smother Carr. He's going to make another bad red zone interception, which he's becoming more and more known for. I think it's going to be terrible. But let's turn the tables a little bit, and let's talk about, in general terms, a lot of penalties, roughing the passer in particular. Roughing the passer, I think, has gone up almost twice as much in 3 weeks as it had the entire season last year, and this is because of the new rule about the putting your weight in onto a quarterback. Clay Matthews has been throwing the flag on roughing the passer for the last 3 games. It just seems out of control, Franco, and it seems like there's nothing that a defensive player can do besides maybe just lightly tap a quarterback. And it seems at this point, the stories today, that the NFL is actually trying to look at this, and they're trying to maybe examine and make a change midstream in the middle of the season. I hope they do something, Franco, because it's really kind of taking the fun out of the NFL at the moment. Because I think it's good to have safety, but it's going too far.
Yeah, about that. I wasn't done making fun of the Raiders yet, but that's fine.
Okay, we can circle, but we'll come back to it at the end of your point.
We'll come back to it. I think the rule in spirit, which is actually the Aaron Rodgers rule. If you remember, this is when Anthony Barr took Aaron Rodgers down with his body weight and broke a collarbone.
Mm-hmm.
So there's that. I think the biggest indictment of the rule is that this past Sunday, during the games, the Rules Committee tweeted out the rule in its entirety to kind of reinforce the calls that were being made. I think anytime you have a regulation where you feel the need to actively defend it in the course of the day, you have a bad regulation. That's the issue. I think, as much as I hate Clay Matthews, I think he's not the nicest guy in the world, although he's quite funny in Pitch Perfect, or whatever that movie was with the singing people.
Correct.
I am Pitch Perfect 2, actually, the sequel, or the squeakquel, and that's Alvin and the Chipmunks. Whatever, you know what I'm saying. I mean, Clay Matthews does have a history of dirty hits. That's something that comes with his game. I don't think the 2 calls that were made on him were dirty hits. I think he visibly is seen lifting his hands up and trying not to land on someone. Unfortunately, when you hit someone chest to chest and you're driving backwards, you're going to land on their body weight. And we saw the other result of this when the Dolphins lost a defender by trying to not land on the quarterback and he tore his ACL. So now basically what you're saying is that the career of the quarterback is worth more than the career of anybody else on the team, and I think that's why we have the rule change coming now.
Do you think that they actually? So you think they will change it midstream?
I think they have to. I think they're flirting with disaster if they don't.
I think so too, and I think it's just because there's so many. I think about the Vance McDonald play where he just blew out a defensive player for Tampa Bay on Monday night. Nobody cares about that. That guy is injured and he's being evaluated at the moment. I'm blanking on his name right now, but that's the type of play where that's okay to be really a violent shove. And I know that that's a different. You're in the moment of play, but still, I mean, I think that's for me where I struggle figuring out. Okay, so this is fine, and you value the quarterback way more than the average player. Is essentially what the messaging seems to be at this point.
Here's my question to you.
Yeah.
So Drew Brees scored 2 rushing touchdowns in a game for the first time probably since the early 90s or 80s or whenever Drew Brees started playing a decade ago. Do you think Drew Brees successfully does a spin move if tacklers weren't being more careful?
No, I don't think so.
I don't think he scores the 2 touchdowns. And I think Drew Brees is one of the greatest of all times. I think he deserves to be in the conversation with Brady. But I think seeing him spin out of a tackle is an indictment of the way the tackle was made because it was done with an attempt not to hurt him. And there's no way Drew Brees, Father Time himself, should be out-juking a 22-year-old linebacker. It's just not real life. This is not Madden.
No. This is not Madden with a 99 rating. Sorry, that's just not happening right now. So I hope that they change this, and maybe they will, but we'll see. The NFL is kind of stubborn. Let's do a little bit of fantasy football before we go. We're heading into the back 5 of this show.
The midnight hour here, yeah.
The midnight hour. Give me one player or 2 that you feel really strong about picking up on the waiver wire, or just maybe even a week 4 stud that you want to let the people know about.
I really love Calvin Ridley, the Atlanta Falcons wide receiver. And it's easy to write off his 3-touchdown game as a fluke by game plan because Julio Jones was taken out of the game. But I think with Freeman not being active and Tevin Coleman not being the receiver he used to be, I think Ridley is the player Sanu should be. And I think the game plan will continually move towards him. So I'm picking up Ridley in all my leagues if I have the opportunity.
Ooh, I'm picking up, and I already picked him up, but I'm more excited about my pickup Antonio Callaway right now for the Cleveland Browns, young wide receiver. You got a new quarterback that throws it, that will probably throw more toward him. So I think that's, for me, a nice little flex pickup depending upon the matchups. And then I think, I did pick up Fitzpatrick, and while he terrified me with 3 interceptions, he made up for it with 3 touchdowns. So I'm going to hold on to him until the Bucs figure out what they're doing with their quarterback situation. But I was surprised in her league, Franco, that he was kind of just dangling out there for a very long time. So I swooped him up. I dropped Dak Prescott, and that would be my advice. Please drop Dak Prescott if you have him in your league. Not doing anything for the Cowboys at all. Really missing throws, and really the offensive line that was once the highly touted offensive line seems to be failing him because he's just getting rushed left and right.
Yeah, I think Dak Prescott is regressed a little bit. It's very eerily similar to Josh Freeman with the Tampa Bay Bucs back in the day, who was fantastic for 3 seasons and then, not in the league anymore. Kind of fell apart. And a lot of it was the fact that team imploded as far as coaching staffs go. And I think we're seeing the end of the Garrett era in Dallas. So I think Prescott might be a casualty of that. As far as Ryan Fitzpatrick being on the wire, we've seen this before with him when he was with the Bills.
Yep.
And other teams. So I want to believe in Ryan Fitzpatrick. I'm just not sure I can. But I think he's a great spot start until he loses that job.
Yeah, I think it's more, you're rolling the dice more. And to not completely dive into our league, I do have Jared Goff, so that's more consistent for me. But it is exciting, and it is a little more dangerous play to be like, I'm going to put Fitzpatrick in there. And I was sweating it out on Monday night. For sure. But, like I said, he pulled it out for me. Good job, Fitzpatrick.
Yeah. You're not the bottom of the league. Congratulations.
Yeah. 2-1, baby. All right, Franco, I believe we are we are at that time, I believe, that we need to say goodbye. And
we do.
Before we go, as per ritual, and it's in our contracts, I need to know one thing from you, Franco, before you go. And that is, what did you learn today?
I learned that even though we haven't expressly stated it, John Gruden is not a friend of the show. There it is. What did you learn, Brendan?
I learned that you don't just have a bucket full of hate for John Gruden. You have a raging river of hate for John Gruden. And despite my Raiders fandom, he is not a friend of the show. No. Well, the Johnny boy out there, we wish you the worst. To everybody else, we wish you the best. For the BFF show, I'm Franco. And I'm Brendan.
Peace.
Bye. Keep this going. We're not stopping.
The microphone was not on for the recording. So, my bad. Let's do this again.